What does a Regis divorce, a Regis bankruptcy, and a Regis personal injury claim have in common? Regis lawyers. Lawyers who care, convenient, affordable, respectful, and experienced. For over 20 years, we have helped thousands throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. We work 100% for the 99%. For a free consultation with an experienced attorney, call or text us at 212-766-1100. And yes, we speak Spanish.
Millennium TV, bridging. Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome. I am Julio Rivera and this is M24 News. Thank you for joining me today. As always, we begin with the local news. Today marks the first day of fall in 2021. The autumn equinox, also called the September equinox or fall equinox. This is the first day, and it starts in the northern hemisphere and begins spring in the southern hemisphere. You can read all about the signs of fall and the ways that we mark the approaching equinox. Now, when exactly is the autumn equinox? The fall equinox, I prefer fall than saying autumn, I don't know about you, arrives today, which is Wednesday, September 22nd, approximately at 3:20 p.m. EDT in the northern hemisphere. The equinox occurs at the same moment worldwide, so don't worry about missing it. Now, what exactly is the autumn equinox, fall equinox, also called the September equinox, a lot of names for this, is the astrological start of the fall season in the northern hemisphere and of the spring season of the southern hemisphere. Now, what else about the equinox? The word equinox, interestingly enough, comes from the Latin aquus, meaning equal, and nox, meaning night. And the equinox day and night are roughly equal in length. During the equinox, the sun crosses what we call the celestial equator, an imaginary extension of Earth's equator line into space. The equinox occurs precisely when the sun center passes through this line. When the sun crosses the equator from north to south, this marks the fall equinox. When it crosses from south to north, this marks the vernal equinox. After the fall equinox, days become shorter than nights as the sun continues to arrive later and nightfall arrives earlier. This ends with the December equinox, we have yet to get there, when days start to grow longer once again. The fall equinox has been a day of celebration for culture since ancient days. People track the transition of Earth's journeys around the sun. In Peru, Machu Picchu, an ancient stone monument called Intihuatana, which means hitching post of the sun, serves as a solar clock to mark the dates of the equinoxes and solstices. Over in Mexico, the Mayans built a giant pyramid called Chichén Itzá, and on the equinox, it looks as if it's a snake made of light slithers down the pyramid steps. And over in England, the Stonehenge was built with the equinoxes and solstices in mind. Fall's not my personal favorite. I'm more of a summer guy myself, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on to our next story, Orisha dance classes with instructor Tony Yemaya. Learn the different dances of the Orishas, which are African deities of the Yoruba Lukumi tradition, as well as the rhythms and movements. You can learn these dances and movements, and you can learn these movements and dances as well as the stories behind these dances involving undulations, contractions, and intricate hand and head movements. This is a class suitable for various levels. Beginners can learn the fundamentals, while more advanced students can focus on technique. Now, Tony Yemaya, as a priest of Yemaya in the Santeria religion, instructor Tony Dominic is frequently called upon to dance for Yemaya. Tony began singing, dancing, and acting in school performances at an early age and was involved with various off-Broadway theater companies such as TADA and AMAS, which brought him to start freelancing as a dancer and singer for community and social events. He also dances mambo with the Young Ambition Dance Company and studied Afro-Cuban folkloric dance with Jomare Rodriguez, Rita Macias, and the late great Pupi Insua. That's a fun name. One of Tony's notable performances was dancing on stage as Chango with the great Latin jazz artist Bobby Sanabria. Tony is also co-director of Salsa Ache, which combines Afro-Cuban dance and salsa, who has presented work in New Jersey and New York salsa congresses for the last 9 years. Now you can find all the details of this particular class by Googling Center for African and Diaspora Dance in Brooklyn, New York. Again, that is the Center for African and Diaspora Dance, and this is located in Brooklyn, New York. And going on from that, Mega Millions ticket worth, get this, $432 million has been sold in Midtown Manhattan. One ticket in today's Mega Millions drawing matched all 5 numbers, and the Mega Ball to win the $432 million jackpot, lottery officials announced. The winning ticket was sold at a pizza store called Pronto Pizza on West 48th Street in Midtown Manhattan, according to the New York Lottery website. David Correa, Pronto Pizza owner, said, quote, "I'm happy for this guy and wish it could be me. Happy for him, maybe he needs it, and I hope we have other winners soon." Now, this is not the first time Pronto Pizza sold a ticket worth millions. Correa said a guy once won $3 million. A few years back in 2009, they sold a $1 million scratch-off ticket. He went on to say, "It's a lucky place. There's no secret at all. It's luck. It's luck. If you're lucky, you got it. If you're unlucky, you'll get it next time," Correa said. Nothing in the pizza, no secret in the pizza. The winning numbers were, just in case you're curious, were 36, 41, 45, 51, and 56. And the Mega Ball was 13. The Mega Plier was 3 times. The winner has a choice of opting for the lump sum payment of $315 million. A ticket in Connecticut matched 5 of the numbers to win the $1 million second prize, officials say. The last time the Mega Millions jackpot was won was in Illinois on June 8th. The jackpot for the next drawing, for anybody curious out there, the next drawing is on Friday and resets to $20 million with the cash option at 14.5 million. Now the odds of winning the Mega Millions jackpot are 1, this is a long number, 1 in 302,575,350, according to the the lottery, New York Lottery's website. Wow, what I could do with $300-something million, my goodness. Now, closing, it's competition time in New York City's Special Olympics. The Special Olympics in New York athletes and coaches throughout the state are now training in 7 fall sports: bocce, cycling, golf, equestrian, soccer, softball, and cross-country running. I didn't even know that horse riding was even an option in the Special Olympics. You learn something new every day. State Fall Games has returned and will be hosted by Glen Falls Community October 22nd and 23rd. Sporting venues throughout the area. Special Olympics return to activity protocols, which requires that at least 80% of the participants be vaccinated for the COVID-19 virus to further ensure the health and safety of everyone who attends State Fall Games. There's guidelines, if you will. All participants must wear a mask, with the exception of athletes who are competing or eating or drinking. All coaches and volunteers must be vaccinated. Athletes who remain unvaccinated must confirm a negative test prior to attendance. Coaches and bus captains will perform a symptoms surveillance check prior to traveling. Opening and closing ceremonies have all been moved outdoors. Isolation areas will be established at each venue, and hotels should participate with not exhibiting COVID-19 signs during the event. Safety squad volunteers will carry out disinfectant protocols throughout the event. Now, unvaccinated status may result in future event and participation limitations in accordance with local guidance. Stacy Hengerman, President and CEO of the Special Olympics of New York, says of the 2021 fall season, quote, "The 2021 State Fall Games will mark two very special milestones for our athletes, coaches, and fans." She went on to say, "This will be our first Fall Games since last held them in Glen Falls in 2015, and the first statewide competition we're able to host in person since before the global health pandemic." You can check out all of the details on the Special Olympics at specialolympics-ny.org. Again, that is specialolympics-ny.org. Now, on that note, we will be taking a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will find out what's going on with former Vice President Trump and a lawsuit he's filing against his, get this, own niece. We will also be finding out about McDonald's and how they are changing their iconic Happy Meal, and the latest with President Biden and vaccines. All this and more right here on M24 News. We will be right back.
What does a Regis divorce, a Regis bankruptcy, and a Regis personal injury claim have in common? Regis lawyers. Lawyers who care, convenient, affordable, respectful, and experienced. For over 20 years, we have helped thousands throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. We work 100% for the 99%. For a free consultation with an experienced attorney, call or text us at 212-766-1100. And yes, we speak Spanish.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
I am Julio Rivera, your host, and this is M24 News. Now, continuing on in the news, we have U.S. President Joe Biden, who pledges 500 million more vaccine doses to the developing world. The U.S. is to donate 500 million more doses of the Pfizer vaccine to developing nations from next year. President Joe Biden made the pledge at a virtual COVID-19 summit on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, promising a, quote, arsenal of vaccine. The additional jabs will see the total U.S. commitment on vaccinations sharing exceed 1 billion jabs or shots. Experts say some 11 billion doses are required to vaccinate at least 70% of the global population. The World Health Organization has set a minimum target of 40% vaccine coverage in every country by the end of this year, 2021. But the goal is unlikely to be met. While many high-income countries have now given at least one shot to more than half their populations, only 2% of people in low-income countries have had their first dose, according to the data from the University of Oxford. It's now a big pledge, and it will be met with a fair amount of skepticism from countries still waiting to vaccinate even 2% of their population. The US had already pledged 580 million doses, but delivered only 160 million of those doses to other countries as well. So what's different now? Well, global production has picked up in the past few months, and there are doses available. Rich countries could have 1.2 billion spare doses by the end of the year, even if they run booster campaigns, according to science analytics firm Airfinity. 241 million of those could go to waste if they're not donated. But these need to be sent very soon. The White House's COVID summit comes as research shows rich countries are still holding surpluses of vaccines, many of which could soon be thrown out. In June, members of the G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the United States pledged to donate 1 billion doses to poor countries over the next year. Let's see how that story develops. Now, over to the Trump story. Here's what's going on. Former President Trump sues his niece, Mary Trump, and the New York Times over leak of his tax records. He's filed a lawsuit against his niece, as well as the New York Times and 3 of its reporters, alleging a, quote, insidious plot to obtain and publish his tax records. The lawsuit filed Tuesday accuses those New York Times reporters Suzanne Gregg, David Barstow, and Russell Buettner of, quote, relentlessly pursuing Mary Trump in hopes of obtaining confidential records that were exchanged as part of a Trump family legal dispute years earlier. The journalist convinced Mary Trump to, quote, smuggle the records out of her attorney's office and turn them over to the Times. The lawsuit claims that this lawsuit was filed in New York Supreme Court in Dutchess County, New York. A New York Times spokeswoman said in a statement, quote, the Times coverage of Donald Trump's taxes helped inform citizens through meticulous reporting on a subject of overriding public interest. This lawsuit is an attempt to silence independent news and organizations, and we plan to vigorously defend against it. A spokesperson for Mary Trump did not immediately provide comment on the lawsuit, but the Daily Beast did report of her, saying of her uncle and his lawsuit, quote, I think he's a loser. There was an expletive in there. I'm not going to say it. And he's going to throw anything against the wall he can. Now, Mary Trump, his niece, said it's desperation. The walls are closing in, and he is throwing anything he can against the wall that will stick. As is always the case with Donald, he will try and change the subject. The newspaper's use of anonymous sources and the decision to communicate with Mary Trump through a, quote, burner phone show the defendants knew full well that their actions were wrongful, the lawsuit alleges. It seeks an award of at least $100 million, an amount which Trump's lawsuit alleges he sustained in damages as a result of the Times' actions. Trump said in a statement shared with a spokeswoman, quote, more to come, including on other people and fake news media. As the complaint notes, Mary Trump revealed in her own book last year's called Too Much and Never Enough that she had provided documents to the Times and that one of the reporters, Suzanne Craig, had provided her with a burner phone. Mary Trump wrote in the book, quote, I hadn't fully grasped how much of a risk I was taking. If anybody in my family found out what I was doing, there would be repercussions. I knew how vindictive they were, but there was no way to gauge how serious the consequences might be. The lawsuit alleges that Mary Trump's removal of confidential documents, which were part of the litigation surrounding the will of Fred C. Trump, her grandfather, and Donald Trump's father, breached the terms of a settlement agreement. It accuses the Times reporters of being, quote, directly responsible, unquote, for that breach. In late 2018, the Times published a lengthy article that said former President Trump participated in, quote, dubious tax schemes during the 1990s, including instances of outright fraud that greatly increased the fortune he received from his parents. Wow. No comment. Now moving on to McDonald's. Now, what is McDonald's doing? McDonald's pledges to reduce use of plastic in Happy Meals toys. McDonald's pledged Tuesday to significantly reduce the use of plastic in its Happy Meals toys worldwide, 2 years after the fast food giant faced backlash in the United Kingdom over environmental concerns. For McDonald's young customers, this means instead of some plastic figurines, they'll get a 3D paper-based toy they can put together themselves. Some paper-based toys like Pokemon trading cards are already in the US market. More options, which could include board games with traditional plastic pieces swapped out, and other types of toys, will start appearing in US Happy Meals in January. McDonald's commitment marks the latest evolution in the Happy Meal program, which was introduced in 1979 and has been subject to controversy over the years. In the past decade, the company has also tweaked the Happy Meal menu to make it healthier. In 2018, for example, it promised to remove cheeseburgers from the menu by 2022. McDonald's also made changes to its Happy Meal toys a couple of years ago in the wake of backlash from consumers worried about plastic waste generated from the toys. One incident in particular made waves. In 2019, a petition started by 2 British girls asking McDonald's and Burger King to stop distributing plastic toys started gaining traction and media attention. Now, ultimately, that plea garnered over 500,000 signatures. In 2019, McDonald's started to test out books, board games, and plush toys in Happy Meals in the United Kingdom. Starting this year, Happy Meals in the United Kingdom and Ireland will no longer include toys made from non-recycled or non-renewable types of hard plastic. The company also began to offer books and toys made from paper across the region this year to avoid plastic altogether. And as of February, Happy Meals in France no longer come with plastic toys. The efforts have allowed McDonald's to reduce the use of virgin plastic, which is made with fossil fuels, by 30% since 2018, the company said. It is now aiming for a 90% reduction by 2025 compared to 2018. The announcement follows a pledge by Burger King in 2019 to eliminate non-biodegradable plastic toys globally by the end of 2025. When asked during a press briefing whether the commitments were made in response to consumer backlash, including the UK petition, Jenny McLaughlin, McDonald's chief sustainability officer, noted that some changes were made prior to 2019. She said, quote, "We've had our innovation in our toys for quite some time." She also added, when it comes to some cases in the companies, that they started, quote, "introducing some more of these sustainable materials as early as 2018. She went on to say, "We're always listening to our customers and our families and understanding where can we do better." McDonald's also said in the briefing that the transition to new materials was a massive undertaking and that it sells over 1 billion toys each year. The new toys won't cost franchisees more than the old ones. Major companies including Burger King and McDonald's are also responding to customer concerns over plastic waste by testing out reusable packaging in certain markets. McDonald's set a goal in 2018 to reduce greenhouse gas emission from its offices and restaurants by 36% between 2015 and 2030. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will look into global news. Now, there was an earthquake in Australia, bans lifted in Japan, and Manny Pacquiao, the world champion fighter, is running for president. Come back and we'll talk about this. And this is M24 News. I'm Julio Rivera. Come back and we will see.
What does a Regis divorce, a Regis bankruptcy, and a Regis personal injury claim have in common? Regis lawyers. Lawyers who care, convenient, affordable, respectful, and experienced. For over 20 years, we have helped thousands throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. We work 100% for the 99%. For a free consultation with an experienced attorney, call or text us at 212-766-1100. And yes, we speak Spanish.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Hello and welcome back. I am your host, Julio Rivera, and this is M24 News. Thank you for coming and joining with me today. Now, going on to our global news, an earthquake rattles Southeast Australia. A magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck near Melbourne on Wednesday, according to Geoscience Australia. They said it's one of the country's biggest earthquakes on record, causing damage to buildings in the country's second largest city and sending tremors throughout the neighboring states. Now, this quake's epicenter was near the rural town of Mansfield in the state of Victoria, about 124 miles northeast of Melbourne, and was at a depth of 6 miles. An aftershock was rated 4.0. The quake was felt as far away as the city of Adelaide, which is around 500 miles, to the west in the state of South Australia, and Sydney, which is 600 miles away, to the north in South Wales state. Although there were no reports of damage outside of Melbourne and no reports of injuries. More than half of Australia's 25 million population lives in the southeast of the country, from Adelaide to Melbourne to Sydney. Now, the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, told reporters, they, quote, "We had no reports of serious injuries or worse, and that is very serious, very good news, and we hope that good news will continue." He went on to say, "It can be a very disturbing event, an earthquake of this nature. They are very rare events in Australia, and as a result, I am sure people would have been quite distressed and disturbed." Quakes are relatively unusual in Australia's populated east due to its position in the middle of the Indo-Australian tectonic plate, according to Geoscience Australia. The quake on Wednesday measured higher than the country's deadliest tremor, a 5.6 in Newcastle in 1989, which resulted in 13 deaths. Now, the mayor of Mansfield, Mark Holcomb, said he was in his home office on his farm when the quake struck and ran outside for safety, saying, quote, "I have been in earthquakes overseas before, and it seemed to go no longer than I have experienced before," Holcomb had said. The other things that surprised me was how noisy it was. It was a real rumbling like a big truck going past. He knew of no serious damage near the quake epicenter, although some residents reported problems with telecommunications. No tsunami threat was issued to the Australian mainland, Indians or islands or territories, the country's Bureau of Meteorology said in a statement. The quake presented a potential disruption for anti-lockdown protests and expected in Melbourne on Wednesday, which would be the third day of unrest that has reached increasing levels of violence and police response. Wow, Australia. First, there was one in Haiti not too long ago, now in Australia, an earthquake. We'll see how that develops. Now, on our next story, the U.S. lifts import ban on Japanese food. The United States has lifted import restrictions it placed on some Japanese food products following the 2011 nuclear power plant incident or accident in Fukushima. The U.S. Food, Drug and Administration said Tuesday that it is deactivating an import alert covering 100 food items from Fukushima and 13 other prefectures. The U.S. is the third largest importer of Japanese foods, including farm and fisheries product. The total value of such imports from Japan topped $1 billion last year. With the ban lifted, Japan can now ship products such as rice from Fukushima and shiitake mushrooms from neighboring Tochigi and Ibaraki prefectures. Meanwhile, the European Union has announced plans to ease some of its import restrictions on Japanese food items from October. However, 14 countries and territories such as China, South Korea, and Taiwan are continuing to block some Japanese food products. Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries says the U.S. move is likely to influence the decisions of their governments on whether to resume imports. Now, our final story, and my personal favorite of today, it's very interesting. Manny Pacquiao says he will run for Philippine presidency in 2022. Boxing star Manny Pacquiao said on Sunday he will run for president of the Philippines next year after railing against corruption in government and what he calls President Rodrigo Duterte's cozy relationship with China. Manny Pacquiao accepted the nomination of his political allies during the National Assembly of the faction he leads in the ruling PDP Laban Party, days after a rival faction nominated Duterte's longtime aide, Senator Christopher Go, as the presidential candidate. That faction nominated Duterte for vice president, a move that critics called a cynical ploy that by Duterte to retain power. Go had declined the nomination, but the rift between Pacquiao and Duterte factions has escalated. Manny Pacquiao, who is 42 now, is now a senator in the Philippines, said in a live-streamed speech during the assembly that, quote, "I am a fighter, and I will always be a fighter inside and outside the ring. I am accepting your nomination as candidate for the President of the Republic of the Philippines." Pacquiao's faction has not expressed support for Duterte's vice presidential bid. Duterte is prohibited by the Constitution from running a second 6-year term as president. One of the greatest boxers of all time and the only man to hold world titles, Manny Pacquiao, in 8 different divisions. Pacquiao did not comment about his 20-year professional career. From champion boxer to Senator of the Philippines to potentially the 2022 President-elect of the Philippines. That is incredible. I've seen his fights. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Julio Rivera, and this is M24 News. Now, before we go, I have to give a shout out to where you can find us. You can find us at this and more content on M24 News at Apple TV, Jago, Jadu, Roku, Sky Cable, Amazon Fire TV, Radiant IPTV, Verizon Fios, World Cable, Star, Desh TV, BTV, Cinefun TV, TWC TV, Star Cable, My Cable, Horizons, and Horizon Satellite. You can also find this if you download the app on all smartphones and all smart TVs, as well as iOS is where you can find us. Just download the app, Millennium TV. Again, I am Julio Rivera, and this is M24 News. And everyone have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you for joining me.